Welcome. I'm Carol Saunders, and I am delighted to be your worship chairman person this morning. And one thing I love about this congregation is that we enfold each other in meaningful ways. This morning, I'm recalling and appreciating our baby blessing for Anton. We were invited to nurture him in mindful ways as he grows, and we were brought into the beauty of his new existence. We enjoyed the anticipation of pleasures and challenges of Karina and Tom in his upbringing, and we embraced them, just as we embrace each other in our various ways. I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone who's visiting us for the first time. We are an intentional community. I wish we were that. Gathered around our shared promise to support each other's individual spiritual journeys. We don't all believe the same things in exactly the same way, but we do share the same values and the same commitment to our spiritual growth. We share the faith that our beliefs become real when we act on them to make the world a better place. And we share the commitment to live a life grounded in community. If you're joining us online, fill out a visitor form in the link in the description. We'd love to connect with you. From 12:30 to 1:15 today, right here in the Earth Room, the Healthy Congregation team invites you to experience a conversation around how to live our respectful relationships at UUCB. When the world outside of UUCB is so deeply polarized and painfully conflicted, how do we chart a different path for facing the inevitable disagreements that arise in our community? Meet back here in the Earth Room at 12:30. Next Sunday, after the service, is our Finding Yourself at UUCB class for newer folks who want to explore membership or deeper engagement right here in this church. Scott, Rachel, and Rev David would love to see you there, and RSVP at the welcome table after the service would be helpful. To covenant is to commit that even if we fall short of our aspirations, we will not let them go. We will never cease from trying again to live them out. In that spirit, gather in person and online, and will you all together speak our covenant? We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it. The chalice is the symbol of our liberal faith. It is the warmth of compassion, the fire of justice, a lamp on the spiritual path. If you're joining us online and have a chalice nearby, please get ready to light it with us. I would like to invite Matt Ball to light this morning's chalice.
Good morning. Hello, I'm Matt Ball, and I've been a member of this church for nearly 10 years now. My wife, Nicole, and I joined in 2015, initially as a way to provide some kind of moral upbringing to our two young daughters, but now they've mostly stopped coming, as teenagers often do. So Nicole and I have been attending for ourselves. Today's theme is practicing presence, and this has been an aspirational part of my life. One second here, I just touched my phone here. Made difficult by the ever-present technology of phones and the internet vying for our attention. The 2017 seminal paper by Google researchers named "Attention is All You Need" defines the core technology used by today's artificial intelligence large language models used in things like ChatGPT, which I'm assuming most of you use at this point. The irony is that this algorithm has gotten so good recently at stealing away our attention and keeping us from being present in the moment. I was finding myself absent-mindedly unlocking my phone with my fingerprint, not really knowing or like having a purpose in mind, just unlocking it because it's kind of out of habit. So just a couple of weeks ago, I disabled the fingerprint unlock, and now I instead require a very overly complicated pattern to unlock my phone. Just so that I have to be really sure that I want to unlock it for some purpose. While this has been much more inconvenient, it has been making my phone a little bit less desirable and accordingly easier to stay present in the moment. Likewise, practicing meditation can seem to take a little effort and time, but it also makes my life better and helps me be more present. I consider both meditation and turning off the fingerprint unlock my phone to be spiritual practices. I light this chalice in gratitude for this church, community, and its opportunities to be more present.
I'm gonna tell you a thing that's a little ridiculous and a little infuriating. We have a YouTube. This is not the ridiculous or infuriating part. We have a YouTube channel. You already know this if you are watching online right now. We got about 500 subscribers. We live stream this service every week. Maybe about 24 people tune in live. A bunch more after the fact. It's important outreach. It's like a front door for a lot of newcomers. And every so often on a Sunday morning, greeting out front, someone will come up to me. You don't know me, but I know you already. I've been watching these services for months, and now it's a lot of effort, too. Our AV team in that little room back there, yes. Yes. Having a YouTube channel also means that every so often we get trolls posting obnoxious comments. Rude comments, insulting stuff. This is the price of admission to the internet today. And we know what to do. You never engage, you block the person, you delete the comment, you move on. Standard internet stuff. But last week, we got my absolute favorite all-time troll comment, and I had to share it with you. Because as mad as this person is, what he says, and I am sure it is a man, is something for us to celebrate. AV team, will you pull this up? As a comment to the sermon titled, "What is Unitarian Universalism?" he wrote in all capital letters, "Foolish heresy, that's what it is." I told this to a friend. They said, "You should put that on a t-shirt." Look, there's no use arguing. I don't try to convince these folks. That's not my business. But I want to get clear because at the heart of our faith is a beautiful and a life-changing belief that is a heresy to a great many people in this country. And here it is. Here it goes. This is what I would preach standing on an overturned milk crate on a street corner. This is what I would declare on the strength of my own experience and on the shoulders of centuries of tradition. This is what I would thunder into a megaphone, not hell, but hope. There is something right here in and between and beyond this place. There's something right here in this moment and in every place, at every moment. that wants you to come alive, that wants you to be whole, to thrive, to be all of who you actually are right now and who you are called to be. There is something that wants you to live from a place of love, not shame, to move through your life from joy, not hate, that wants for you to dwell in compassion, first of all for yourself and for everything in this world and every person, every living thing, the world itself. There is a love that wants you to come alive and awake and present. And for some of the people in this room right now, the name you call that force, the name you call that experience is God. For some of the people in this room, you say, yes, this gentle, loving invitation that wants me to come alive. That's what God is. God is as close as your heartbeat, not as judge or ruler or punishment, but as the gentlest, most loving experience of hope and care, an invitation for you to belong to life even when you feel that you can't. And that is already pretty heretical, but the heresy gets better. There's more. Because for many of us also, that something, that feeling, that experience is still absolutely, unambiguously real and central, even if we don't call it God. That thing that holds you, that cares for you, that carries you onward, does not require you to believe in any particular theology. It's part of what it is to be alive in the world as a human being. It means that you can be who you are and who you're called to be, and you don't need to believe in God or a higher power whatsoever at all to feel that and experience that, not because Jesus is secretly pulling the strings of that experience behind the scenes, but because that experience is something deeper than any theological description of it. There are 100 ways to find the experience of love at the center of living. There are endless spiritual roads to travel on where love can come into your life. And what matters the very most, I think this is really getting to the good heresy. What matters the very most, we say as Unitarian Universalists, is not the name that you address that thing by, but the practice of following the thread of love through the labyrinth of the world. That's what this tradition is, following the thread of love through the labyrinth of the world, and then losing that thread and finding, and then forgetting that thread even exists, and remembering and not letting go and letting go of it and finding it again. Maybe you got beat up along the way because people told you you didn't believe the right way, just like all capital letters guy. Maybe with words and looks and silence and withdrawal and ostracization, you were told that you were bad or wrong or broken because you didn't believe right. They were wrong to tell you that. And the trauma of those experiences is real and it matters, and maybe it still shapes your life right now. But Christians who told you that missed the point of what Jesus taught. The secret message, which is also the plain message that he just came out and said. There is a love holding you. There's a love holding all that we love. We rest in that love. We're healed in that love. It's in us and between us. And we're called then to make that real, in fact, in our lives. That's what I would preach standing on a milk crate on a street corner with a little megaphone. I don't know what I would do for the next 2 hours after that. Variations, repetitions. I've never listened to a corner preacher long enough to know if they just repeat the spiel again or... But that's it. You are beloved by whatever name you call it. You are worthy by whatever path you took to arrive there. There is all around you and in you and between us a holy and a transcendent beauty in this world and every person in it. And we are wasting our lives when we argue about the right name to call it by instead of living that love into being. That's what Unitarian Universalism is about. Not believe whatever you want and do whatever you feel like, but put love at the center and follow where it leads your life. That's why a Christian and a Buddhist and a humanist and a pagan and a religious naturalist are all sitting in the same, y'all know who you are, all sitting in the same pews together right now without argument. Because for all of our different theologies, we share the same heresy, that love belongs at the center of our living. That's the still, small voice that we listen for through all the noise and storm of the world.
One of my poorly kept secrets is that I was born with an innate disposition toward melancholy. When it's unbalanced, it can veer toward the world of depression and require medical intervention. But I tend to do the best when I just recognize that sadness is a part of who I am and how I see the world, and not something that needs to be fixed. And so I'm sharing this with you just in case we're entering a time of the year that can be very difficult and can contain lots of ups and downs. So our service today is an invitation to just be with all of that, however it arises for you, and to know that however you are in this moment and in the moments after you leave our doors, you are loved, you are held, you are treasured, you are beautifully, imperfectly perfect exactly as you are. To me, that's one of the gifts of Unitarian Universalism, and I think especially in this congregation, we tell the truth about life and how we are, and it's welcome, and it's held, and it's beloved. And we've got some really good songs about it. So would you rise in body or in spirit? Just in case you don't know this one, I'm going to invite Austin to play it once through, and then we'll sing it twice. So if you don't get the hang of it right away, fear not.
Invitation into prayer and meditation is an invitation to be here now, to be present to yourself, to all the parts of yourself, to all those things that get compartmentalized and put on the shelf, not to take them all down and unpack them all and process them all, but to remember that all of you is here. You're more than the work that you do. You're more than the people that you care for. The invitation to prayer and meditation is an invitation to presence, to be here now. I share these words for reflection by the Colorado poet Rosemary Watola Tromer, this called For When We Greet Each Other. I want a new ritual for when we meet each other, strangers or beloveds, friends or rivals, elders or children. It begins by holding each other's eyes, the way we behold sunrises or the first cherry blooms, which is to say, we assume we'll find beauty there. Perhaps some display of open hands, a gesture with palms up that suggests both I offer myself to you and I receive you. There should be a quiet moment in which we hear each other breathe, knowing it's the sound of the ocean inside us. If there are words at all, let them be formed mostly of vowels, so they're heard more as songs than as spitting, more like river current and less like throwing stones. Words that mean something like, I do not know what you carry, but in this moment I will help you carry it. Or something like, everything depends on us treating each other well. And if we said it enough, perhaps we'd believe it, and if we believed it enough, perhaps we'd live it. Treating every other human like someone who holds our very existence in their hands, like someone whose life has been given us to serve. Even if it's only to walk together safely down the street, hold a door past the salt, share the sunset, offer a smile, and say with our actions, you belong. And be in silence for just a moment. Amen. Ritual is an outward embodiment of an inward movement that sometimes takes years to notice, to change. In moving our bodies, in placing stones to symbolize our joys and our sorrows, we're like gardeners of our souls. We're like landscape architects watching trees grow by inches one year after another, tending and training and teaching ourselves to recognize how hope and suffering and celebration are all woven daily into our living, becoming people who remember the beauty and the tragedy that fills this world, always, both at once. For those meeting in person, I invite you to come forward as you feel moved, starting with the back half of the room, and then the windows, and the side, and then the front. Silently take a stone and feel its weight. Feel your body slowly warm it. And let it be an emblem of your thankfulness or your worry, both. And then place it into this sacred earth in the company of all the other joys and sorrows of this gathered community made visible. Place a first stone this week, because this week the Supreme Court heard arguments over whether trans youth have the right to health care. And once again, unafraid and unambiguous, We lift up the inherent worth and dignity of trans people of any age, no qualifier, no exception. And for all our hopes and griefs, we hold this compassionate space with love. Please come forward. So still were the big woods where I sat. Sound might not yet have been born. So still were the big woods. Feel their protecting spread, their uplifting rise, their solid, immovable strength. See God in it all. Enter into the life of the trees, the silence full of sound. Everything is green. Everything is waiting and still. Everything is alive. The holy is in the ordinary. It's right there, in the woods, in the silence, in this very moment. Everything waiting and still and alive. There's a transcendence in the ordinary and the everyday, and we go looking for it. We go practicing it. We practice in meditation and more complicatedly locking the phone. We practice in singing and in silence and in stones. And it can go too far. Christina Cleveland, a social psychologist, a public theologian, an author, and a professor, and a black woman, tells this story. She says, the day after the 2016 presidential election, you remember that one, I happened to be speaking at a conference in New Orleans, one of the bluest cities in the South. While wandering the working art studios in the Bourbon Street area, I encountered a local sculptor who, on hearing that I teach peace and justice studies at Duke Divinity School, burst into zealous tears. Her collar soggy with snot and runny mascara, she articulated the disillusionment that many New Orleanians felt in the aftermath of Trump's election. This is devastating, she lamented. Cleveland goes on, her sorrow, the sculptor's sorrow, didn't surprise me. After all, over 80% of New Orleans voters chose Clinton. But her difficulty in finding hope, in finding God, in finding the holy in the midst of such devastation, is one that struck me as both distinctly human and distinctly privileged. The privileged life is all about transcendence, a life that lies beyond the limits of ordinary experience. It's about avoiding, escaping, anesthetizing oneself to systemic and societal pain. Most privileged people make choices that shield them from the realities of those who are excluded from safe, stable, prosperous communities. Intentionally or not, they isolate themselves from the majority of people in their region who experience systemic oppression. And given that transcendence is central to the privileged experience, it's not surprising that many spiritual practices common among privileged people support a theology of transcendence, a belief that God lies beyond, not within, the limits of ordinary experience. Now, I worry a little bit that sounds like scolding, like you're doing it wrong. Meditation that's not what I'm saying. It's not that at all. I'm saying there's a risk here. There's a risk in spiritual practice that brings us deeper into relationship in the world or that takes us out of the world. There's a risk in theology, your theology, that says, is the point to leave this place or is the point to be here now? The holy is in the ordinary, and it's in each of us, and it's between us. And 101 years ago, in his book, I and Thou, the Jewish theologian Martin Buber unpacks this. I read this book in seminary years and years ago, and it was beautiful and passionate, and I want to share the message. And I went back to it this week, and I could not get through it at all. I think that's actually a me problem. not with what he's writing. Because at the center of the whole thing, at the center of it, what he says is we move through the world treating the people around us, the animals around us, the world around us, we treat them like things. We treat each other like things, like it. Meaning we don't move through the world usually seeing each other as possessed of the same humanity, as possessed of the same, you know very well for yourself, the history that you've come through, the things that you've overcome, the adversity that you've lived through and the challenges met, you know for yourself the depth and the breadth of the grief and the struggle that you are living with on a daily basis. You know very well for yourself that you are trying so, I'm not going to swear, hard, and we encounter each other and very often say, oh, well, yeah, that idiot. Most of all in traffic, right? That's the easy one, but that same sort of approach, that same lack of recognition that everyone else is just as fully human as we are, that's what Martin Buber's talking about. We treat each other like it instead of thou, instead of you. He uses this old-fashioned word. He says, he writes this book, I and thou, because you just doesn't get the point across well enough. I don't remember if he was looking back or the translator was looking back, but Quakers, historically, centuries ago, would address each other as thee and thou. For Quakers, there's a part of God inside of every human being. And the practice, the reminder that we have to take that seriously, that we have to treat each other like humans, the tradition is to call each other thee and thou, to make that clear, to be the reminder, to not let us slip into treating you like an object, like a means to an end. Our work is not to reduce people to things, and it's holy work. Martin Buber argues it's holy work because the ultimate example of this I-thou relationship for him as a Jew is the relationship with God. A commentator writes about his book, why not just say that we ought to be mindful that the human beings we confront are persons? In other words, why go down this path to talk about God and theology and transcendence and all of this? But what Buber's trying to say is that it's not just you're also a person like I am a person. He finds in my encounter with you infinity and eternity here and now. He finds what the mystic and poet William Blake finds in a grain of sand or a wildflower. He finds the life that's in the stillness of that forest, unspoken and alive. He wants to say that it's not as simple as just treating each other like persons, a thing which makes rational sense and is clearly the right thing to do, that there's a whole nother axis to that experience, a holiness to that experience. He's suggesting, in other words, that the spiritual path and the spiritual life is not about leading you out of this world into some other one where we stay forever, but leading you out of this world in order to come right exactly back into this world again. It's leading you into deeper engagement here and now. Another way to say it is his attempt here in talking about I and thou is to try to make the secular sacred. To say this experience of relationship between persons is so utterly profound that it would change the world if we all actually lived like that. And it will change your life if any of us live like that. That sounds, at least to my ears, wildly abstract. In fact, this thing is also very ordinary and everyday. In the middle of September this year, at the 9 o'clock service, where all the kids are there because there's religious education classes during that service. I told them a wisdom story. Each week we tell a different wisdom story, a narrative or an example or a spiritual practice. Emily teaches them song. I was up that week, and for the wisdom story, I held up a Lego set. Magical Unicorn. Yes. Magical Unicorn 3-in-1 Lego set. I'm just going to say there were a lot more Lego fans at that service than this one, but all right. There was at least one like, oh yeah, Magical Unicorn. Opening the box, I poured out the pieces, and I complained, this does not look like a unicorn. Looks like a bunch of pieces, my set is broken. That's not how Legos work, they explained to me. We talked a little back and forth about what it takes to make the pieces into the unicorn. Directions, said one kid. It takes patience, said another, and curiosity. It takes exactly all of that, I told them. Sure, you need to know what you're trying to build and directions, and that's not enough. You need qualities inside yourself, patience and curiosity and hope and perseverance. At which point, one kid bursts out with this confident smile of discovery. Oh, I know where you're going with this. And so, surprised and delighted, I asked them to break it down for us. And they said to me, yeah, you're talking about building community. You need to know the pieces, and you need to know what you're making, and you need to feel all these ways on the inside. Which, yes, is exactly where I was going, in a much more direct way of saying it. But here's the thing. That is delightful, charming, unexpected fun. But the thing that sticks with me isn't just that statement. It's the way the room of people around this child held it. They laughed, and like us, they didn't laugh at the kid's boldness or confidence. They didn't find it charmingly cute that a fourth grader got the point. They didn't marvel at the great wisdom of children. They didn't treat the kid like someone entertaining them. The way the room held it was that they were all in it exactly together. The whole room laughing with the same surprise and delight of unexpected discovery. That child was one of their own, a member of the same body, absolutely and unambiguously belonging in community, doing just the same work. Just the same work as the 40-year-olds and the 80-year-olds, meaning making. A person among persons, a teacher and a learner, just like the rest of us. Martin Buber writes a great many words translated at great length from German 101 years ago. And at the heart of it, his invitation is simple and demanding, and it is to be present to the full humanity of every other person we encounter. His invitation is to follow the thread of love through the labyrinth of the world. Amen.
And then my soul may hear a voice, a still, small voice of love eternal. There's one in you, and there's one in everyone you meet. It takes our presence, it takes our awareness, it takes letting the trappings of our ego fall away to listen for that sound. Will you rise in body or in spirit? This is one of my absolute favorites from Shelley Jackson Denham, Dark of Winter. We did not plan the intro, I'm sorry.
this month, the entire offering goes to support the operating fund of our church. We are entirely self-sustaining through our own donations, and we don't get money from the denomination, and income from rentals is important, but just a small part of our budget. Instead, we embrace the notion of self-governance and self-sustainability. We talk about money directly without guilt or shame or anxiety. The fact is, it takes money to make this place possible. So, the invitation always is equal generosity and not equal gifts. In that spirit, I invite you to give as generously as you are able. And for those online, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. For those gathered in person, you can scan the QR code or make a donation as the ushers now pass the baskets.
As we close, 2 invitations. First, Fred reminds me that tomorrow, the Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly Registration and Housing opens for our annual gathering of congregations in Baltimore in June of 25. It is a blast. It is like 3,000 Unitarians gathering from all over the country for worship and workshops and business. And you, if that sounds interesting to you, you should talk to Fred, because he will do a much better job than pitching you than I just have. The second invitation at 12:30 today right here in the back of the room. Grab some food, grab some coffee, come back in. The Healthy Congregation team's conversations on our covenant, how we commit, how we are with each other, how we do conflict better. I'd love to join you there. For all of our different theologies, we share the same heresy: to put love at the center and to show up to that love to ourselves and to each other over and over again. Amen. And go in peace.
Please rise in body or in spirit. Join hands if that feels safe in your body.
Blessed is the path you take, made of thy
Amen.